Hello there, it's good to be back with you again, recording for Digital Sojourner. I do trust that God would bless His word to us today. Continuing with our teaching through the book of Titus, we're in Titus chapter 2, as you will probably be aware if you have been watching these video teaching sessions. Let me read to you the verses I want to talk to you about today. Paul writes to Titus in verse number 6, "Young men likewise exhort to be sober-minded, in all things showing thyself a pattern of good works, in doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity, sincerity, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you." Now, if you've been following these teaching sessions, we've worked our way through to see that the Apostle Paul is teaching Titus, and through him he's teaching the people in the assembly in Crete. And he's dealt with older men, older women. He's got the older woman to teach the younger woman, and now he's addressing the fact that these younger men need to be taught. But what is very, very interesting about this is that he asks Timothy to encourage, exhort, stimulate the young men to be like the other groups, like the young woman, like the older woman, like the men, to be discreet, to be those who are sober-minded, those who are in control of their mind, in control of their thinking. But then he says to Titus, but I want you to be the role model for these people. I want you to show them how it's done. So he says, in all things, showing thyself a pattern of good works. So he says, you be the blueprint, you be the template, you be the example. And he said, in every aspect of your life and teaching, I want you to demonstrate, to show to them what it's like to be a pattern of good works, to be noble, to live a life that is pleasing to God, that is glorifying to God. Now he says, remember that also when it comes to what you teach, make sure you're an example for that as well. So in other words, your living has to match your teaching. In teaching matters as well. And be careful not to have any corruption, nothing that would deviate from the truth, nothing that would deteriorate. He says, I want you to show uncorruptness, I want you to show an honest dignity, gravity, and I want you to be sincere in your teaching and in your practice. And he says, one of the big things in a Christian's life is what they say, what they do and what they say. Two very compatible things and two very important things. He says to them, make sure that your speech is sound. That's the idea of make sure your speech is healthy teaching, sound speech that cannot be condemned. In other words, don't leave yourself open for criticism. Don't expose yourself to people who say, you say this, but you do that. Make sure that what you say cannot be criticized. So what he's saying, he says, be an example in the works you do, the good works. Match up your doctrine, your teaching by good living. What you say, make sure it's not corrupt, it's not defective. Make sure that it is a dignified, honest account of what God says. Be sincere and sober in your teaching, and make sure that the words you use are healthy words that can't be condemned. He says, because there's people are out to get you. And he says, I want to make sure that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed. Those that would be opposed to you, I want you to show them that actually feel guilty because they tried to trip you up and there's nothing they can trip you up about. He says, so that they would be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you or of us. So really what he's saying to Titus is, good, godly Christian living takes the feet from under anyone who would try and destroy the message of the gospel, who would try and destroy the doctrine of salvation, who would try and destroy the fact that God can work in a person's life. And that's so true for us today. Make sure that what we say matches what we do, and take the feet from under people who would oppose the message of the gospel and Christianity, so that they've got no evil thing to say. In fact, they might be ashamed of themselves for even thinking to criticize those who seek to live for God. Mind you, we would need God's help and the help of the Spirit of God, and to spend time with the Word of God and to know God's power and strength to live like that. I trust the Lord will enable us and help us to be like that in our Christian life. Thanks again for watching and listening.